اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم اذا زلزلت الارض زلزالها واخرجت الارض اثقالها وكان الانسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. روحانی مجلس اناؤنسمنٹ. مومنین، آجنی مجلس بند خدا طرف تھی مرحوم الحاج عاشق حسین محمد علی રાશિદ તથા કુલ મરુમીના ઇસાલે સાબરથી રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ મરહૂમ હુસૈન અલી મુહમ્મદ અલી જેસા ડામાની અને સઈદાબાઈ હુસૈન અલી જેસા ડામાનીના વારિસો તરફથી મરહૂમ ફાઝલભાઈ કરમશી, મરહૂમા મોંગીબાઈ ફાઝલ કરમશી, મરહૂમ ફિદા હુસેનભાઈ રજબ અલી કરમશી, મરહૂમા ફાતમાબાઈ અબ્દુલ્લા કરમશી, મરહૂમ નુરઅલીભાઈ કરીમ, મરહૂમ ગુલામબાસભાઈ કરીમ, મરહૂમા શમીમબાઈ બિનતે મોહમ્મદ અલી અબ્દુલ્લા કરમશી, મરહૂમ હાજી મોહમ્મદ અબ્દુલ્લા તથા કુલ મરહૂમીના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ વારિસો તરફથી ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે 250 પાઉન્ડ અલ-કાયમ પ્રોજેક્ટમાં આપેલ છે. સર્વેને દરખાસ્ત કરવામાં આવે છે કુલ મરહૂમીના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે એક સૂરે ફાતિહા. અલ-ફાતિહા. બિસ્મિલ્લાહિર રહમાનિર રહીમ. અલ્હમ્દુલિલ્લાહિ રબ્બિલ આલમીન અર-રહમાનિર રહીમ.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات محمد وآل محمد. جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی. جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی. آل عمران کہاں اور زندان کہاں، یہ بہن قید ہوئی تو نایا غازی. جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی. ہم کو پانی نہ ملے تیری خوشبو تو رہے، تیرے بازو نہ کتے چاہے مشکی زچی دے، یہ مگر ہو نہ سکا تیرے بازو ہے جدا، مجھ پہ ہے تشنہ للی تو نایا غازی. جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی، دھوپ میں تو تھا شجر تجھ سے آباد تھا گر، ہے برہنا میرا سر، کیا نہیں تجھ کو خبر، اے علمدار وفا اس بہن کو بخدا، تجھ سے دارستی بری تو نایا غازی، جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی، آ گئی شام علم لٹ گیا اہل حرم، ریت پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا علم، پرسہ دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی تو نایا غازی، جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی، کیا کہوں شعر میرے بیریدہ ہم کو لیے، یہ مسلمان سارے شہر در شہر گئے، خلقتے کوفہ کبھی خلقتے شام کبھی، اور ہاں ہم پہ ہنسی تو نایا غازی، جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی، کتنی بے بس تھی بہن اے شہنشاہ وفا، نام لے لے کے میرا جب یہ ظالم نے کہا، ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے اب بلاؤ نہ اسے، اور میں روتی رہی تو نایا غازی، جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی، قید خانے میں قضا جب سکینہ کو ملی، دیکھے کرتے کا کفن بچی دفنائی گئی، اس گھری نام تیرا صورت نادانی، دکھ میں تو راتی رہی تو نایا غازی، جبریدہ سر سے چینی میں صدا دیتی رہی Dunaya Gazi Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Al-Fatiha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن تطع أكثر من في الأرض يضلوك عن سبيل الله إن يتبعون إلا الظن وإن هم إلا يخرصون. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight we are commemorating the Wafaat of one of the great personalities of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, that is the great lady Janabe Fatima Masuma, known as Masuma-E-Qum, Bibi Masuma-E-Qum, the great sister of Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam and the lofty daughter of our seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam. So in this lecture, what I wanted to do today was to look through a little bit about the early history of this great city of Qum. She is known by the title Masuma-E-Qum. So whenever you think about her, you always think about the city of Qum. So I wanted to look at a little bit about the early history of this great city and how it came to be such a prominent place amongst our school of thought, amongst the Shias. And then also look at this great verse of the Holy Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah number 6, verse number 116. It's a really striking verse, and whenever I read this verse, it gives me shivers. It says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, if you were to obey most of those people on earth, يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, they would lead you astray from the way of Allah. This is frightening, this is very, very alarming, that most of the people, if we adhere to them, listen to them, obey them, follow them, we will be led astray from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what role does Qum play in helping us to handle what this verse is saying? Qum, as we will come to see, in its history, first establishes itself as a stronghold of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, and then when we fast forward a few centuries, it has now become the stronghold not only of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, but also of the knowledge, the ilm, the ma'rifat and the hikmat, the wisdom, the knowledge, the sciences of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So how did this happen? Inshallah, this is our discussion for tonight. Qum has a very, very important place, even in recent history. Before we go to the early years of Qum, even in recent history, we see that people know very well the haram of Qum, the hawza of Qum, the scholars of Qum, the maraji of Qum, the different places in Qum. It's become a very, very well-known phenomenon. However, sometimes it really hurts the feelings when people go for the ziyarat of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Of course, they go to Mashhad and other places. Qum is sometimes just an afterthought. They maybe spend a day there, half a day, or maybe even they don't go at all. This is like a little bit of a tragedy in my opinion. If people knew the speciality, the specialness, the fazilat of Qum, really it is something mind-blowing. So where is the first mention of Qum in our ahadith? We have two mentions from Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam in two hadiths which mention the city of Qum. The very name of Qum is also very interesting. There are two theories behind why Qum is called Qum. Number one is a historical reference. What this historical reference says is that back in the day, way back in time, there used to be a river that ran through Qum, and that river attracted local farmers, They set up pasture there, they would water their animals there, they set up their homes there, and they built around that area something that they called Qumeh. Qumeh means, in Old Farsi, it means kind of low housing, not very high rise, not with large roofs, but kind of small housing, low level housing, known as Qumeh. Over the years, as the Arab settlers increased, that Qumeh became Qum, and then through Arabization, through the Arabic language influencing that area and influencing Persian, it became Qum. This is one version of why the place is called Qum. The other version is a more interesting one. This is where we read in the account of when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on his journey of Mi'raj. What it says there is that in some reports it says that Rasulullah, as he looked down upon earth, he saw Iblis sitting on one particular place. And that place where he was sitting was the current city of Qum. And he looked at Iblis, and because of the sanctity of that place, he didn't want Iblis to stay there, he didn't want Iblis to have any influence there. He says to him, Qum. Qum in Arabic with Qaf Mim means get up. In other words, you need to get up from this place and go away. This is not your place. So that's the second version of why the city of Qum is called Qum. Now, the early history of it is very interesting. What we find is that during the time of the second caliph, there was a man by the name of Abu Musa Ash'ari. He, as history tells us, he did an uprising and he came to the holy city of Qum and he overtook that city. So this is, you're talking about around 23-24 AH after Hijri, according to the Islamic calendar, that the city of Qum has its first kind of takeover by this man, Abu Musa Ash'ari, and he takes over the city. So at that time, you could say that this is probably the first proper moment in which someone from the Islamic religion comes over to the region and establishes power there. Then we have other reports that the Bani Asad Arabs started to move over to that area, and they actually settled in the place that we currently know as Jamkaran. Jamkaran is that huge, large masjid which is frequented throughout the year, throughout the months, throughout the weeks, but especially so on Tuesday nights. You will find people, they go out of their way, after namaz of Maghrib and Isha, they go to Jamkaran. It's become a kind of ziyarat in itself. The history of Jamkaran is not my topic for tonight, but the history of that place itself, why the mosque is there, what link does it have to the 12th Imam, this is a topic in itself. But they established their settlement at Jamkaran, they built a mosque there, and therefore you have more people moving towards this holy place of Qum. Then later on in history we find the narrations tell us, the historical narrations tell us, that the people around that general area, they started to make some uprisings against the rulers of the time. They were kind of anti-establishment. They didn't like what was going on. So they had uprisings. Many a times they were crushed. One time in particular, the governor of that general area, he posed an uprising and his uprising was crushed. However, the remnants, those people who remained in his group from that uprising, some of them, the key members of that, they remained, and they were strong people, they were strong personalities, they had a following, they remained in that area. So they remained there, although they were militarily defeated, they stayed in that area, they began to propagate, and they were Shias. So they started to propagate and emphasize the Shia madhab, the madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Now, through these generations, through these years, through these decades of continuous settlement and people coming over to the region, now you have the biggest influx that we see in history. If you look at one particular influx, this is around 70 to 80 AH, members, prominent members of the tribe of Ash'ari move from the city of Kufa to the city of Qum. And they are the ones that really now begin to establish Qum as a Shia stronghold. They are very instrumental in spreading the Shia religion, Shia culture, Shia customs, and it is that family in particular that manages to secure that area of Qum as a Shia stronghold. So much so that history shows us that by the time of the 10th Imam, Imam Ali al-Naqi al-Hadi alayhi salam, Qum is now a very important, prominent place. So much so that based on the research of some scholars, at the time of the 10th Imam, it had become one of the most important centers for the gathering of Shias in Iran at the time. And it is narrated that Imam al-Hadi himself declared that the people of Qum were forgiven by Allah because they had visited the shrine of his grandfather, Imam Ali al-Ridha alayhi salam. So as the prominence increased, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt also appreciated this, praised the people of Qum, recognized them, and in this way Qum became more and more of a stronghold for lovers and followers of Ahlul Bayt. Some of these Ash'aris, some of these people from the tribe of Ash'ari who had gone there from Kufa, they were not at all on good terms with the Umayyad establishment. So that led to them being a kind of rebellious nature. And that led to them even influencing the people around that area to be rebellious towards the central government. And therefore, again, you see this kind of characteristic of being anti-establishment and anti-central government was there in the holy city of Qum amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt. And of course, all of the atrocities against Ahlul Bayt that were conducted by the Umayyads against, starting in Karbala and thereafter, and all of their atrocities, Muawiyah's time, Yazid's time, and thereafter, this all led to the solidification of a very strong Shia identity, that we are not in line with these Umayyad rulers, and that cemented the position of Qum even further. Then, of course, you have the single most prominent event in the development of that city, if you want to put it in that way, and that was the arrival in, when? Around 200 AH of this great lady, the personality we are remembering tonight, Hazrat Fatima Masuma, daughter of the 7th Imam, sister to the 8th Imam. Her arrival was like the cherry on the cake. When she came there, such was the fame and admiration and respect of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that people now had even more reverence, respect and sanctity for this great city. We will come on to her history at the end of the lecture, inshallah. We have lots of hadiths about Qum. This all historical narration is one part of it. But actually we have hadiths even whilst this was going on, even before this went on, we have hadiths about the place itself. We have hadiths about the ziyarat of Bibi Masuma. We have hadiths about the city itself. What are some of these hadiths? Let me mention a few. For example, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, our beloved 6th Imam, he says, calamities are repelled from the people of Qum. They are the proof of Allah over other people. So you can see even during the time of the 6th Imam, this is before even Bibi Masuma is born. Even then, Imam realizes and emphasizes the significance of this great city of Qum. And in this way, maybe we can say Imam was encouraging people towards Qum, emphasizing the importance of Qum, re-emphasizing the sanctity of that place. In another hadith, the same Imam, the 6th Imam, he says, the soil of Qum is sacred, and its people are with us, and we are with them. Subhanallah. This is one of the biggest draws of people coming to this city, settling there. Today in Qum, if you go, you'll find people from all corners of Iran go there and settle there. It's like one of those cities that the local original inhabitants are very few. For example, if you look at the older generation, very small number of them, you could say, once you speak to them, you ask them, where were you born? Very few of them will say, we were born in Qum. Usually they've come from the surrounding villages and areas to settle in Qum because of these kinds of reports, this kind of emphasis and sanctity. In other hadiths, we have that again, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that a time will soon come that Kufa empties of mu'mineen. The mu'mineen will leave Kufa. The ilm and the knowledge will leave Kufa. It will settle where? In the holy city of Qum. So there are many, many different narrations regarding the city of Qum. Now let us turn our attention towards the event which I described a few moments ago, the arrival of this great personality, Bibi Masuma-E-Qum, into Qum. Now here we have, the history tells us, now some people sometimes, unfortunately, I have to set the record straight here, they often compare Imam Hussein and Bibi Zainab with Imam Rida and Bibi Masuma. The way that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was killed, martyred, and then Bibi Zainab remained to propagate, to spread the word, to uphold Islam after Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They assume the same thing happened to Imam al-Rida and Bibi Masuma. They assumed that Imam al-Rida was killed, and when the news reached Bibi Masuma, this affected her so much that she became ill and she died. This is not true. In fact, in history, Bibi Masuma dies before Imam Rida alayhi salam. And they never met. Once Imam Rida left Medina, when the forces of Ma'mun came and forced upon him to take that kind of fake position of designated successor to the ruler, after he leaves Medina, he bids farewell to everyone. He tells them, I'm not coming back here. You're not going to see me again. He actually goes to a different part of Iran at the time. Bibi Masuma doesn't end up reaching him. She never met him again after he left Medina. She was on her way to meet him, but certain things transpired and she could not meet him. And her end of life happened in Qum, a large distance away from where Imam Rida was. So although, yes, of course, this is a brother and sister, the same way that Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Bibi Zainab were brother and sister, but that's where the similarities kind of end. There was no, the brother dies first and then the sister becomes so emotionally affected that she eventually passed away. I've heard this in Marsiyas and these things, people recite it, but it's actually historically not accurate. So, before even her arrival, Qum had this great stature. It had been mentioned in Hadith, it had a respect amongst the Imams, and they had spoken about it. Many of the descendants of some of the Imams had already traveled there. They had settled there. So when on her journey she was going towards her brother, there happened an incident. What was that incident? Their caravan, the caravan of Bibi Masuma, the group, were ambushed. They were attacked. Was this a purposeful attack? Was it bandits? Was it someone targeting them? These are different theories that we have in history. In any case, the attack happens. Many of her caravan are attacked, killed and injured. She then becomes ill. Now that's another question. Did she become ill due to the shock of this event? Did someone play foul and maybe poison her? The one theory is that yes, she was poisoned and she became ill. Another theory is that no, she simply coincidentally after this attack became affected and became ill. When she becomes ill, her supporters are depleted, her forces are few now. What does she do? She is told by the people that along this route there are many precarious places. The one safe place we can recommend to you to go to, where there are lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, is the city of Qum. Therefore, she travels to the city of Qum. She is met by the nobles of Qum, and the kind of leader of the city himself welcomes her with great honor, with great dignity, with great respect. He welcomes her and he tells her, you are to be my guest and you can live in my house in complete privacy, and everything you need we will provide, but please be our guest. They honored her greatly. Today, if you go to Qum, you can actually visit that same physical location where she stayed. How long did she stay there? She stayed there for 17 days. Her stay in Qum was relatively short. 17 days she stayed in that house. Today you go there, it's just a short drive from the Haram, or even a short walk really. You can go there, you can pray there. It's a nice tranquil place. It has actually got a name of Baytun Nur, the house of Noor, the house of light. You can actually go there and there's often majalis and it's like a small imambara type of thing. So that is still preserved. After 17 days, she leaves this world with the effect of that illness which had affected her, and she left this world. However, she leaves behind a great legacy. As I said, her arrival into Qum increased that level of spirituality, respect, honor, dignity of that holy city. And today, if I mention one more hadith, then we can open up the discussion onto current day and what we see currently in the holy city of Qum. One of the narrations we find from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is this. They say heaven has 8 doors. 3 of them open to Qum. Heaven has 8 doors, 3 of them open to Qum. That's a great statement. So currently scholars, they discuss, what does it mean by 3 doors open to Qum? What is the meaning of that? So they've come up with different ideas. One of the ideas is this, that one of the doors towards heaven, which opens towards Qum, is nothing other than the haram of Bibi Masuma herself. Because when you go to the haram, it is so full of spirituality, nur, like spirituality, light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and her ziyarat is so special that this is one of the ways to get to heaven. So this is one interpretation of one of those doors. And this is backed up very nicely by hadith. Because we have hadith from 9th Imam, 8th Imam that say that whoever does the ziyarat of this great lady Fatima in Qum, falahul Jannah. That person will have secured for himself heaven. So this is one way of looking at those 3 doors. The second, and this is the legacy that she has left behind. This is where, inshallah, I'm coming to in a few moments. The Islamic seminary, the Hawza Ilmiya. Today, I pose you a challenge. There'll be very, very high probability that anything you pick up of Islamic nature, Islamic knowledge, Islamic research, Islamic scholars, fatwas, mujtahids, books, papers, articles, research, you'll find a lot of it stems from this holy city of Qum. This is one of the amazing legacies that she and our Shia ulama have struggled over years and centuries to cement this kind of atmosphere and environment in this holy city. That it is now today known as the holy city of Qum, the Hawza Ilmiya of Qum, and arguably the foremost place where you go for Islamic learning in the world today is Qum. Now, that could be another reason for one of the doors of heaven opening from there, is because of this access, this wealth of knowledge, this wonderful research which is taking place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of our scholars, keep them in good health, lengthen their lives, especially the lives of our maraji', be they in Najaf or Qum, wherever they may be, they are very important to us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them long lives and keep their leadership with us for as long as possible. Thirdly, the third door, or the third interpretation of what that third door could be, is the Holy Mosque of Jamkaran. It is unbelievable. You go there on a Tuesday night. May Allah lift this coronavirus from the world soon, inshallah. The ways and means of travel again open up and we can go once again. Tuesday night, you go there, you see the atmosphere, you see the buzz, you see how people are infatuated with the idea of meeting Imam-e-Zaman, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. How they are supplicating there, how they gather there, how that place is buzzing with spirituality. So this is the third interpretation regarding those 3 doors of heaven which open towards Qum. Bibi Masuma and the ulama have left this legacy of the Hawza, of the scholars, of the scholarship, of the rigorous research, of the methodologies, and all of these things. And this is where I come back to the opening verse of this lecture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verse number 116 of surah number 6, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. This is that verse which I said makes me sometimes shiver, because it says, if you follow most people on earth, يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. They will take you away from the path of Allah. There's a lot of fake information out there. There's a lot of fake people out there. There's a lot of fake news out there. This we know from what we see around in the news and the media. We know there's so much fake news out there. But unfortunately, even Islam has not been spared. Even regarding Islam, there is too much fake news out there. There's too much false information. Either it's completely false, or it's falsehood mixed with truth, and now we don't know what is what. We don't know which scholar is saying what, who to rely on, who not to rely on. Confusion, disunity, parties, groupings, sects within sects within sects. This is really not doing us any favors. What the Hawzas do, what the Hawza of Qum and Najaf, we have to put these two together. These two are our shining lights in this dark world of fake news. What they do is they have maintained very strong principles of scholarship. Hence, we always look towards them for guidance. We always look towards them for reliable information. Their methods are strong, their history is strong, their background and pedigree is strong. And hence, when we look at them and what they say, we can derive a great deal of satisfaction that they are not within this group that Allah says, if you follow most people on earth, they will misguide you. Here, we can have some satisfaction, some itminan, some certainty that here at least, with the rigorous, strong scholarship that these two centers provide, we can navigate through these murky waters of confused messages and unreliable information about our religion. Today, to tell you the truth, it really pains me to say, but most of our people, we don't know how to differentiate a true scholar from a non-true scholar. An accurate piece of information from inaccurate. Authentic hadith from inauthentic. We don't have those tools. We need an apparatus. We need a method. We need an authority to be able to guide us. This is what Hawza Ilmiya offers us. So we have to be very careful. Whom we consult, whom we turn to for information, the more attachment they have to the methodologies of these two centers, the more we can feel confident that the information is correct and is accurate, and it doesn't come under the verse which I described, that if you follow most people on the earth, yudilluka an sabilillah. They will misguide you from the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The great lady, Bibi Masuma, has wonderful respect amongst the scholars. I just want to give you one story, and then we will move on to the recitation of the Masa'ib. This is a story from the life of, probably we can say, the person who has reinvigorated in the modern age the Hawza of Qum. That is Ayatollah Burujardi. We don't know much about Ayatollah Burujardi in our community generally. That's a shame, because there are some amazing things about him which must be shared. There's a story that during the time of Ayatollah Burujardi, he was regarded as what we call Za'im of the Hawza. He's like the person who took care of the Hawza. He was the person in charge, the overlooker of the Hawza. There's a story from his life that a student had come to Qum from a different part of Iran. He didn't know anyone in Qum, and he was going through tough times. Things were very difficult for him. He hardly had anything to eat. He hardly had any money. He had been surviving on very little for the last few days. And then he gets annoyed. He really gets fed up with his situation. So what does he do? He goes to the haram. When he goes to the haram, unfortunately, he's a little bit rude when he speaks to Bibi Masuma. He addresses her with the words, Ay Khanum. Ay Khanum in Farsi means, O woman. That's a very disrespectful way of addressing someone. But this is the tone he uses because he's so fed up. He's so at his end of sabr and patience that he complains to her. He says, Ay Khanum. "O woman," he says to her, "Look, if you can't take care of people, then don't bring them to your city," meaning himself. So what he was trying to say is that, look, I've come here under your protection, under your umbrella. You've brought me here through your spiritual power, if you want to put it that way. But if you can't take care of people, why do you call them here? And then he goes back to his school where he was living, his halls of residence. After a while, there's a knock. The caretaker of that school comes to him and says, "Someone is here to see you." He says, "It can't be, because no one knows me here. Like, I don't have any relatives here. I don't have anyone from my town here. No one knows me here. Who is it that is asking for me?" He says, "The household of Aghay Burujardi is calling you." Aghay Burujardi was the main personality of Qum at that time, possibly of the Shia world at that time. Our equivalent of Ayatollah Sistani today, for example. He says, "Aghay Burujardi." He thinks it's a joke. He says, "Look, don't mess around with me. What would Aghay Burujardi want with me? I'm no one." He comes back again after a while. He says, "Look, the person is still here. He's calling you. He wants you." So this person thinks, "Okay, let me go and see who it is." So he goes there. It's one of the workers of Aghay Burujardi. He says, "Agha has called you to his house. Please come." So now he's thinking, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" He goes to the house of Aghay Burujardi. Aghay Burujardi calls him in, sits him down, treats him with respect, gives him a bag of money and says, "Here you go. This is for your provisions. This is to help you out." Now this man is still confused. He doesn't know, how does Agha Burujardi know about me? And the story ends like this. As he is walking out of the house of Aghay Burujardi, Agha says to him, "One more thing." He says, "Yes." He says, "Listen, one more thing. Next time you go to the haram, speak nicely to that woman." And he uses the term khanum. So the same term that he used in disrespect, Aghay Burujardi is trying to tell him that somehow, I know you went there, you addressed her rudely, next time don't be so rude to her. This was Aghay Burujardi. This is the kind of personality that Qum can create. Proximity to the haram, proximity to the great lady. These things should not be underestimated. This is inshallah where we want to take our leadership from, our guidance from. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless Aghay Burujardi, raise his station in the life hereafter. If you are fortunate to go to Qum anytime soon, then you will find his grave in the haram. It is that one unique grave. I don't know how many people will understand this, but I'll try to explain. Between haram and the Masjid al-A'zam, you'll find one unique grave with a green lamp on top of it, encased in glass. It's different to all of the other graves. That is the grave of Ayatollah Marhum Burujardi. May Allah elevate his status, and may He grant us all tawfiq to be amongst these kinds of followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Janab Fatima Masuma salamullahi alayha comes to Qum, as I said. She stays 17 days in the holy city. At the end of these 17 days, her body deteriorates, her health gets worse and worse. She leaves this world. She is given an amazing funeral. The host of Lady Masuma says, "I have land. I would be honored for her to be buried in my land." The grave is dug. Then the discussion takes place. Who will now lower this personality into the grave? As they were discussing this, it says in history that from afar 2 riders approach. Their faces are covered. Their faces are covered, no one knows who they are. They come, they dismount, they perform the namaz-e-mayyat, and they lower the body into the grave. Who were these people? It is believed that in her honor, the 8th Imam himself came with a companion, or with the 9th Imam, and they attended to the burial of his sister. We remember Karbala. We remember Ashura. Oh Bibi Masuma, you were able to be attended to by 2 people from your household. What about Imam Sajjad alayhi salam? We remember that body on the sands of Karbala. His head is separated from the body. The fingers of the hand are severed. The clothes on the body are torn. The bones of the body are broken because they have been trampled by the hooves of the horses. This is what Imam Zainul Abidin had to witness on the 11th of Muharram. As Bibi Zainab passes by the body of Abdullah, she falls there. What does she say? She says, anta akhi, anta al-Hussein. Could it be that you are the same brother? You are my Hussein. Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimeen. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Matame Hussein.
حسین یا حسین اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے صدمہ ہوا ہے ایسا جسے اٹھ گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے یا رب نہ کسی بھائی بہن سے ہو جدائی جگر پھٹتا ہے غم سے یا رب نہ کسی بھائی بہن سے ہو جدائی جگر پھٹتا ہے غم سے اٹھا ہے چین دل کا نہیں لطف جینے میں بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے یہ داغ ذرا فاطمہ کمی سے تو پوچھے اس سخت علم کو یہ داغ ذرا فاطمہ کمی سے تو پوچھے اس سخت علم کو کیا دل پہ گزرتی ہے بلا اس جدائی سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے افسوس وہ کس شوق سے نکلی تھی وطن سے ملنے کو بائی سے افسوس وہ کس شوق سے نکلی تھی وطن سے ملنے کو بائی سے اور یہاں تو ملا داغ جدائی کا جگر پہ بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے پہنچی جو کم میں تو ملا افسوس یہ پیغام مارے گئے امام پہنچی جو کم میں تو ملا افسوس یہ پیغام مارے گئے امام سنتے ہی وہ گش کر گئی اس سخت خبر سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے کرتی تھی بکا ہر گھڑی وہ رو رو کے بھائی تم مر گئے بھائی کرتی تھی بکا ہر گھڑی وہ رو رو کے بھائی تم مر گئے بھائی جینا ہوا دشوار سب اس رنج و علم سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے سب کہتے تھے اب صبر کرو بھائی کے غم سے کب تک ہی روؤں گے سب کہتے تھے اب صبر کرو بھائی کے غم سے کب تک ہی روؤں گے زینب کو کرو یاد کیا صبر تھا کیسا بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بائی کے علم سے اے مومنو لو فاطمہ کمی گئی جگ سے بھائی کے علم سے सदमा हुआ है ऐसा जिसे उठ गई जग से भाई के अलम से। ए मोमिनो लो फातिमा कुम्मी गई जग से भाई के अलम से। या हुसैन या हुसैन।
अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दुल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न अमीरिल मुमिनीन व इब्न सय्यिदिल वसीय्यीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न फातिमत الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزادتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجانا، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم، برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم، وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحار، وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم، وحرب لمن حاربكم، وولي لمن والاكم، وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم، ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم، أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم، وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبتي، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله من صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد، اللعين ابن اللعين، على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيه صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية، عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانا، وعمر بن سعد والشمرا، وآل أبي سفيان، وآل زياد، وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. Please go into sujood. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم، الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.
اللهم قل لي وليك حجة الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه